Today we're going to be changing a DC jack on a laptop motherboard. This is an ASUS motherboard, which is very prone to the jacks breaking off on them. Your jack is here. Now this heatsink must come off. So we'll take the heatsink away. And there's your jack there. We're just going to unsolder this and put a new one in its place. The tools you need here is a solder sucker. It's sucking up your solder off the board. So this tool will suck the majority of the solder off, and then we'll get some solder wick and clean up the solder, clean up the legs so we can just take the jack out. If you're going to get solder wick, make sure you get the good stuff, because there is a difference between solder wick and solder wick. If you get this stuff, it makes your job so much easier. So let us begin. Basically we're going to take off most of the solder up here. Alright, so that's taken most of the solder off. Now you get your solder wick and just touch around there. And all this wick does is absorbs the solder into the copper braid. Alright, so that's most of the solder gone. Let's see if we can get this off. You may have to touch up the solder points because they'll be jammed in a few of the legs that are here will have solder tracking across, holding them in. So you may have to touch up with a little bit of solder just to loosen out the pins or the legs out with the solder holes. You've taken all the solder off. Apply a little bit of solder to any of the legs that are sticky or sticking, and that will just release the solder. This is very time consuming. It's always hard to get these off, to get all the solder off, to get them off. It's not easy to do. It looks easy, but it's not that easy. I mean, this one here, I'm putting solder on most of your legs, and that'll just warm up the solder, melt it, and let it drop out. Once you get it started moving, and it's just a case of finding which leg is holding it on, and just push that and drop it out. A little bit of time in this. It's been a long video. Problem is here. There you go. Up she pops. And just clean it up. Now with this solder wick, this is only a 1.5 mil. You get 3-4 mil, the bigger the better, especially with something like this. And we'll just take this on the jack. What you have to do here when you solder this in is just make sure it's sitting flush. Solder one point, and then with that one point holding the jack in position, you can just touch that one point and put pressure on the actual jack to push up and make sure it's sitting square. Because if it's not sitting square and you solder it in, you'll end up having to take it all back out again, which you don't want to do. And if you look here, you'll see I've soldered the one point, pushed it in, and then we're just going to tack the legs on, a bit of solder on the legs, and then we're all done. It's all in and ready to go back. As I say, it takes a bit of time to get this out, and putting it back in, you're just got to make sure that everything is square. It's easy to solder back in. There's 5 or 6 legs. You just a bit of solder on, a bit of heat, a bit of solder, solder it in, and then you're all done. Reassemble your laptop and you're finished.